Okay, we're live. Who would like to do a recap?
Um, Give me a minute here.
We do have one regular viewer at home for some reason.
Do
God
we?
bless you. Yeah, God bless you, whoever you are. But every week.
That's impressive. I
Wow.
This might be the first game that has a regular viewer
Wow.
that I've been a part of.
I should have showered.
So we started this session um, in the basement or the kind of the far down layer of Carol Hool, and Helwyr was seriously hurting, and Holbein, Samus Holbein's base was mostly ripped off, and we had to figure out what to do. So we spent a good amount of time debating on whether or not we should rest, because a couple, Helwyr and T-Hole wanted to rest, but Thonot was convincing us or trying to get us to leave, that it wasn't safe. There were still thralls in the area that were under Karahool's spell or his control, and there was this kind of dark energy about the area. We could, even though we burned the body, we couldn't quite get rid of it. With the holy fire from
Zarius.
yeah, from Zarius. So we we left, and thanks to how we were being a ranger, we never got lost on the way back to Bogtown.
That's true.
And
I had whole mechanics planned out for what happened if you split the party and went off in different directions into the swamp, because it was very easy to get trapped and lost.
thankfully that didn't happen for our part. We rested in Bogtown, and then we decided, since Alcator was basically just a ruin at this point, all the people were killed. We went back to Watchtower. During kind of Holbein's fits where he was sort of awake, he mentioned the white quills. When we approached Watchtower, we were able to get through, although they were a little hesitant to let us in. Nobody recognized. I recall that nobody recognized Holbein. Like, T-Hole was proudly proclaiming his dominance as emperor, as well as escorting Holbein, and it just didn't face anybody. So he was messed up enough where he's kind of beyond recognition from those who would probably recognize him.
You would surmise, like, it's not an age of television. People might know the name, but probably would only have seen him like at a distance of 300 feet at most.
That's fair. I thought maybe the guards would possibly know.
Artistic renditions were not sufficient.
They were more done to an artistic ideal rather than a true depiction of the individual.
That's
exactly.
So we got in, and we found out that the White Quills do have an outpost in Watchtower. So they are known for their healing. So we brought Holbein there, and that is where we met Duke Decius Cosus de Calibria. These are some very fun names. But essentially, he's the head of the White Quills, and he tended Holbein, and offered us that we could stay for as long as we'd like. and then we met Lady Contadina Aristra. And she was called herself a historian and was interested in kind of what we were doing, although we didn't divulge why we were hanging out with Holbein. But we kind of gave her, a kind of rundown of our general adventures. So that was pretty much it.
Yep.
Zarius was going to contact Lokekzikas.
Lokekzikas, yeah.
Lokekzikas. And that was where we left off. I think I covered most of the big ones. Not everything, but...
Yep. So it is still the nighttime of the day you arrived back in Watchtower. So that's the first day in the Tower of the White Quills. Seamus Holbein is upstairs. You were told he's probably going to be unconscious still for several more days. Zarius reported the somewhat gruesome medical treatments that went into trying to stabilize his condition a bit. Like, there were still some of the remains of his eye in the socket that had to be removed. A lot of the bone had to be chipped away because it was rough and irregular. More skin had to be pulled, stretched over, and sealed up. There was not enough skin left to cover the entire wound. So some of the skin from his ass had to be grafted on to his face.
And what happens.
Right. Various herbs and poultices were applied to try to keep the wound from getting infected. But the damage is so extensive, and there is somewhat of an infection already there, that it's going to take probably 2 or 3 days before he wakes up.
Okay.
But it is fairly late at this point. You can hear, it sounds as if it's raining pretty hard outside, and it was pretty cold when you got here, so it's probably pretty miserable outside. But the city's pretty dark, and most of the people have gone to sleep by now. Or town, sorry.
So the are we did we end up like in the kind of a main common area, or are we in our rooms, or where are we right now?
You wound up in, you're not sure what its ultimate purpose is going to be. There's a very large table in here. There are a number of comfortable chairs and couches. So this is where you just sort of all congregated. You were each shown to a private room upstairs. They're nothing special. They're nice enough. They have beds and desks and chairs.
Okay.
But, this is where Mavis, the woman who takes care of the tower, would have brought you your food.
What kind of food did they serve?
For the most part, the whole area is known mostly for its pork. Apparently, people here routinely hunt giant boar, and the meat is particularly well known. So she basically brought you various pork dishes.
This is to T-Hole's liking. He has an affinity for giant boar.
And Helwyr says something about how he wants to go back north to find his boa. There's a giant boa up north, and I need to go back there.
Sure, Helwyr. We'll get right on that.
Lucia Rossi, actually, you stomped out of the room after Helwyr kept saying that your god was worthless and weak. So you rolled your eyes and left before he could start a fight. But you come back into the room.
Okay. So as Lucia Rossi comes back into the room, smelling the delicious pork meals and products in front of him, he sits down, bows his head in a brief prayer, and then begins to eat.
What kind of tea does the White Quill serve?
she probably would have more than one kind of tea. So I guess if you wanted to make a request, you could. But she probably would have brought you something that's sort of most similar to a kind of traditional breakfast tea
At night,
at night.
the savages. You can tell a lot about a person by the kind of tea that they serve their guests.
I mean, not everyone is drinking tea. Some people are she also has ale and wine available for people who want it.
Is she joining us for dinner?
No, it's pretty late at this point. She would guess she probably ate before this.
Okay.
But she seems to be, I mean, you don't know where the Duke, his advisor, or his daughter are. They're probably up in their own chambers at this point. As far as you can tell, this elderly human woman is the only regular employee in the building, the only one you've seen since you got here.
Okay. So is so while we're sitting down, Lusharosi will look at Kajika and say, so what was it that kept you so long from joining us at that temple?
Well, I got delayed.
Yes, Kajika, we've been over this, but I'm just curious if it was an interesting story that you might want to share with us.
Well, not really. Wasn't really that interesting.
Did you have to deal with the citizens of Alcator?
Well, I got to run around in that swamp, too.
It is unfortunate not having a ranger. When you have a ranger, things are much easier.
Or a dryad.
That too.
Yes, it was quite fortunate that you stumbled upon her.
Okay, so out of character, what is how do you pronounce that name, Kurt?
Which one?
Cinema, whatever that god is, the hobgoblin.
Seton Mamadati.
Yeah. Good old Seton Mamadati must have been looking out for me.
Seton Mamadati. That sounds like a tea. Not as good as this tea, of course.
I assure you it's no tea. But if it was, it'd be so hot it'd burn you.
Ooh. Well.
Would Lusharosi have ever heard of this god?
You can give me a religion check. It's pretty easy.
Oh, right. I was about to roll real dice. I forgot.
Rolling dice like a savage.
I know, right?
Yeah, you've never heard of Seton Mamadati.
That's what I was hoping for, actually. So Lusharosi would raise an eyebrow and say, Kajika, I don't think I've ever heard of this Seton Mamadati before.
Well, a lot of you soft races haven't, so I'm not surprised.
If it got you through that swamp, it's a more useful god than Lusharosi's.
Helwyr, I'm not going to continue to allow you to berate my god, especially when you've personally received the blessings of his healing touch through me.
Yes, I've also been brought back from the dead from the other Cyrus god. More useful than yours by the sounds of it.
Cyrus god. Is that
Alright,
is that Xeris's?
Yeah,
Yes.
Osiris, yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Osiris.
Yes, but
He
but
worships my
Osiris was not the one that pulled you from the waters and brought you to him to begin with.
Can we agree that all gods have various powers and are useful in some situations more than others?
Helwyr, just know that by disrespecting my god, you are disrespecting me. I would hope that as traveling companions and as brothers in arms, that you would at least have the decency to hold your tongue in terms of negative comments, especially when it may come to be that my God and his blessings will be the one that may heal you in the future and bring you back from the brink of death when Osiris is nowhere to be found.
We will see about that and your stupid god.
And he pounds his hand to the table and he's like, Helwyr, once again, you disrespect me as well as my god. Please, for the sake of decency and for the purposes of our mission and the time that we must remain together, if you wish to have my support in battle, and if you wish for me to be vigilant in guarding you, in having your back, it would be wise for you to hold your tongue. You may not have nice things or positive things to say about Asheros, but you will withhold speaking them. Lucerosi, have you been a soldier before? I do not know my life before awakening from the stone, but I have served since that awakening as a paladin in Asheros' name, and so I have been frequently in combat. But does that not preclude combat of going to war, fighting side by side, battalions of men and women? I fail to see where you're going with this.
You know, out there in that chevron formation.
Yes, chevrons of men upon women upon men. Where I'm going with this.
Yeah, where are you going with this?
Yes, because it is my understanding and it is my experience that when we are to go into battle expecting to have each other's back, then there is at least a sense of decency and camaraderie between those that share the trenches. And Helwyr consistently diminishes my god and disrespects me as a result of that. Well, I'm not sure what kind of soldiers you've been around, but the soldiers I've been around rag each other all the time, make fun of each other, call each other the worst names, disrespect their mothers, their gods, each other endlessly. But when the time of battle comes, they're there for each other. So, I would suggest that perhaps you can also make fun of Helwyr's god, and that may bring you together in some way, because maybe he's not making fun of you, but he's doing it as a sign of his affection. I have seen this behavior amongst comrades, and it is not something I enjoy engaging in. But also, there is a sense of good nature to it. There is a sense of detectable humor. But in Helwyr's words, all I hear is him dripping with disgust and just ill will. There is a clear difference between how Helwyr is approaching it.
Lucerosi, this isn't some sort of paladin pussy party. This is a mercenary group, and we fight for gold.
Yes, and if you wish to stay alive, it tends to be wise to make sure that you are on good terms with those who you might seek support from.
He has a point. Those elves won't kill themselves.
Well, there will be a day where Lucirosi will slay an elf for me.
And the door opens up, and in comes Mavis, who steps into the room and says, I don't know what's going on down here, but we have a little girl asleep upstairs, and you people are far too loud. She has like one finger extended, pointing at all of you.
What useless god do you believe in, old lady?
I believe in the god that can throw you out on your ass into the cold rain if you don't be quiet.
Sounds like a useful god. Unlike someone I know.
Apologies, Mavis. We will be more civil in our tone. Or at least, I will be.
She nods. And
If she's
her
having
arms-
trouble sleeping, just give her a little nip. That'll help her get some Z's.
A nip.
She was paused, like turning to go through the door again, but she pauses and narrows her eyes and stares at Kajika, and then continues on, closes the door behind her.
Soft races.
So it's fairly simply adorned in this room.
Yeah, there's currently like nothing in the way of artwork. The whole place appears to be half under construction. You didn't see much in the way of like paintings or art objects around. It's mostly pretty utilitarian furniture. Some of the furniture, like in the libraries, is reasonably nice. But it's clear, the shelves of the library are still largely empty. There's only a couple bookcases that are full at this point. It's clear that this place is not currently open and operating yet. Although you have only a sort of vague idea of what it is they're going to be doing here.
Well, I think it's maybe time to retire. It's been a long day. And listening to Helwyr torment Lucirosi is tiring work from a sideline perspective. I think I'm going to hit the hay.
So Lucirosi, he's going to take a different approach. His face softens a bit as he looks at Helwyr, and he says, Helwyr, truly, I do not understand. Have I offended you in some way, or previously hurt your honor? Because I truly do not understand the extent to which you disparage me and the God that I worship and that brought me forth from the stone that entrapped me.
Every god offends me, for I am this gray-skinned race everyone seems to call me, and I will show them that I am not.
And surely
Perfect.
Huh?
Said I'll be right back.
Okay.
No worries.
And surely I can understand that, Helwyr. I'm not asking you to take up arms in the name of Asheros or to convert to his word, although he would welcome you with open arms, I'm sure. The light of Asheros is powerful and cleansing. But still, we are brothers in arms. We do rely upon one another. And it would be easier for me to make sure that I can do so with a clear head if I know that you not only have my back in battle, but also can keep the peace with me outside of it.
I can guarantee the first one.
Okay, but such a small fraction of our time together is spent in combat. Would it not be easier if we can at least be civil to one another while we are not in combat?
If your god is useful, then so be it.
Once again, I do not understand. How do you measure the usefulness of a god? If I am the instrument through which my god acts, am I not useful to this party? And if I were not, why would Loki have asked for my presence here?
Probably to keep us all together. Otherwise, we would all be doing our own different things.
So then, by your own words, I have use, and if I am an instrument through which Asheros acts, by extension, Asheros is of use. I am not asking you to agree. I am simply asking you not to disparage the name of Asheros. At least, not in my presence. Not so openly, and not so disrespectfully. Because I am hoping that we can continue to keep the peace and support one another as we continue on in this journey that we have undertaken.
I cannot guarantee it.
Can you at least try?
Maybe.
Helwyr, I'll turn you into a newt if I hear you argue at least 2 more times with Lucharosi about his god.
I'll make those 2 times great then.
Lucharossi's going to look to Kajika and T-Hole and ask, is what I'm asking unreasonable? It seems, this situation seems bizarre to me.
Well, Lucharosi, I think you're totally within reason. Clearly, Helwyr has some hang-ups about gods or his god, and he's projecting onto you. It doesn't take an emperor to see that.
And as you say that, the door opens up again, and Mavis comes in again, and you can continue. But as you're saying these next words, she is going around the room with a little one of those candle delighters and putting out all the flames. Eventually, the only light is the light coming through the door, and she walks back out and pulls the door closed behind her, and you're sitting in complete darkness.
I cast light on my crown.
I would say that was not a not so subtle hint that perhaps we should retire.
Yes, well, that would be convenient, wouldn't it? I suppose we could go to bed. I was about to go to bed before Lucharosi decided to soften his heart. All this love stuff is making me even more tired.
Yes, I prefer him angry.
All right, so T-Hole takes off his clothes before you, and you see him in his underwear, and he just starts walking to his room.
Okay. Do I have to make a con save for that?
You immediately hear the scream of an old woman as T-Hole leaves the room.
Especially since he's wearing his crown, which has light cast upon it.
So I walk over to the door. Do I see Mavis?
Yeah, she's out there. She appears to be going around a couple rooms, making sure candles are out.
Is that who screamed?
Yes.
You might want to keep it down. There's some people trying to sleep.
All right.
So you're all
Nobody
retiring?
stopped away, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you sleep, each of you finds you're all having a very similar dream. You begin in a castle, but it sort of opens up into a field of gray, and then in front of you, you see appears an image of Lokekzikas, who is looking directly at you, and you're sort of imagining she's going to be part of a dream, but she's not acting like a regular character in a dream, but instead seems to be maybe independent of your dream, of whatever you were dreaming beforehand. And she addresses you directly.
Hello, my little buttercups. Quick warning. I have found evidence that Valasvorne was, I think, working with Vecnites or worse. Think like demons or devils like Orcus, or worse. Some lady named Paradonna seems to turn up over the course of at least a millennium, and she was visiting Eregia in the final days before the manor disappeared. Also, there are whispers about Orcus having taken an interest in Eregia, or vice versa, and that part is a little confused. Something about a demon, devil, who conquered Mammon and is waging war in hell. Okay, wait here. I have a few more words left before. And then it goes silent.
And she, her image fades away. And then it takes about probably a full minute, but once again, the image reappears.
So anyway, the manor may be more dangerous than I thought. So if you don't want to go in, I understand. I'd rather you not go in than that you get killed. So if you want to back out of the deal, that's fine. If you don't want to go in, though, don't be crazy. No book or treasure is worth your lives. Also, there is Mordenkainen's riddle.
She then turns and is looking almost as if there's someone you can't see, and she says,
"What? I'm out of God's damn."
And then she just goes silent again, and her image fades. And then a minute later, she reappears again.
Next, let's see. Oh yes, they moved the manor to Longspear's capital. I don't know how they did that, but they haven't opened the doorway yet, but I'm told it is there. I'm working on getting your permission to go in. For now, you should probably go see Don Petronio in Montvert. That's Seamus Holbein's clan leader. He and I are old friends, and he's well placed in the royal court, so by the time you get there, I should have something worked out, and if not, it's basically on the way home for all of you. Oh, fuck me.
And the image fades. And then the image reappears another minute later.
Okay, last one. Mordenkainen had a riddle that's somehow related to the manor. So if you do go in, it may help. The riddle was, to see what I hide under my life, I have faced blade and beast, spell and spear, imp and angel, and I must do so once and again. Unblinking, I stare in the face of my fears without shrinking as I face their leers and their sneers. Whether you go in or not, come and see me so I can pinch your cheeks and pay you for the work you've done so far. I've sent you a courier. He should be in Watchtower, but he was waiting for you at the palace, and he thinks you guys are wanted for crimes or something. So, have you guys been murdering people? That's what I hear, anyway. He is a halfling named Road Shadow, and he should be waiting for you somewhere in Watchtower. I would try to mark his palace unless you think you're going to get arrested. Then maybe don't try there.
And the image again fades. This time, however, you immediately wake up.
I just want to say that was amazing.
Yeah, the voice translator or whatever it is so good.
Guys, I had the most erotic dream.
Wait. We're still all in our rooms. Are you just
Yeah.
saying this?
Standing in the hallway.
I said it fairly loudly.
Roll to save versus nocturnal emission.
Con save.
So,
So it is. You've probably been asleep about 5 hours at this point.
Is it still dark?
Yeah, it's still dark outside. It is. It is probably. You probably went to sleep at around midnight, so there's probably another. It being winter, another hour or two before the sun comes up.
all right, I'm gonna try and write down everything that I can remember from the dream before returning to sleep. Unless somebody comes into Luciosi's room and is like, "Hey, we should all talk about this."
If T-Hole was talking about having an erotic dream, I would have just bashed on the wall and be like, "Go back to sleep."
Question. Would communication through a dream be considered telepathy?
Give me an Arcana roll.
Alrighty.
I would say, given that you're a wizard, you're aware that there was a spell called Dream that allows people to communicate to someone that they know in a dream. Except you don't necessarily know that this dream went to everyone, but as far as you know, the spell, it only works on one person, and there's no particular limitation on how many, on like how long you can talk. So you don't know why she would be fading in and out. It's possible that she has some lower level version of that spell that works somewhere between sending and dream, so that she can get out more than the 25 words sending allows. But
Okay.
it only works. Maybe it only works through dreams. It does. Your considered opinion would be that this was something very much like the dream spell, though.
Gotcha. So it is not considered telepathy.
Right.
Okay. T-Hole just kind of is musing over this fact, and he's gonna try to go back to bed, but he's probably gonna have some trouble falling asleep because he'll be thinking about it.
Okay. So you wake up a couple hours later. You can smell there's breakfast somewhere in this tower, prepared by Mavis.
What is the breakfast?
It appears to be, from what you can smell, you can smell breakfast meats, probably ham, because of all the boars. Maybe giant boar bacon.
Ooh. Oof. Smells good. Kajika, are you smelling this?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Are you not a ham fan?
Well, I try to stay away from the pork, but last night I had some, and I paid for that. Had the strangest dream.
As Lucirosi walks in, he hears this and he says, "I don't think that was a dream."
No, sure it was. I was asleep. It's called a dream.
Yes, in the technical sense, perhaps, but it seems Loki was communicating to us.
Yes,
I would add.
She
I
cast
would add that Loki has never communicated with you in this way before, but her home base is in the city your base is in, so she may not have felt the need to. You are aware she's a spellcaster of some sort.
It's like
I mean, it was just too strange and vivid to have been a dream.
Yes, she cast the dream spell, although it was not like any dream spell that I generally have come across.
No, you all ate the pork too.
Well, they ran out of beef. Apparently, it's been recalled. So you have to get what you get here.
Well, let's see. Did all of you dream of Loki?
Yes.
Some blue-skinned person. Possibly could have been a god.
Sure.
You've met Loki before. She's hired you before.
Yeah, it looked like her.
And to anyone else, did it seem like her image and message was disjointed from what was going on otherwise in your dreams?
Like you couldn't understand what she was saying?
Yes, that first part was a bit garbled. She's talking very quick and frenetically. But it had something to do with demons warring and perhaps being within the Mordenkainen's manor.
Yes, I couldn't quite make it out.
Yes, I have a feeling that she may have been trying to dissuade us from actually entering the manor.
It seemed like there was somebody else there as well. Now that I think about it, she seemed to be like almost taking cues from somebody else. I wonder if Lokekzikas is held captive. He doesn't seem like the kind that would be held captive, but I suppose anybody could.
I don't recall that part of that she may have been speaking to somebody else.
Yes, appears she was. It seemed like she was anyway. Or my name isn't T-Hole.
Well, in the night before I went back to sleep, I did scramble to take a few notes. That there is somebody that we are to meet, Don Patron. I think that was it.
Is that the
Patron.
halfling we have to steal the gold off?
No, but I'm glad that you mentioned that. That was another name, Road Shadow. And this Road Shadow seemed to give Loki the impression that we're wanted criminals here. Helwyr, have you done something that we're not aware of, perhaps?
Well, of course we're aware of it. He ran over somebody with a cart.
Yeah, a couple
Now,
people.
granted,
actually.
they didn't get out of the way fast enough.
Too bad they didn't die.
He did drag a cart over several people. I forgot to put that in the summary.
Yes, he did.
We brought Holbein. It was last session. We brought Samus Holbein to the palace, and they didn't recognize him, and they weren't that because we brought him before we brought him to the White Quills, and they didn't recognize him, and they wouldn't help us.
Yeah, we're in that giant line like we were last time.
Yeah, and he was Helwyr like just pushed him straight up, and we exchanged some not so nice words trying to get them to help their master, and they turned us away. So then we went back down and ended up running over a few people.
I must have been resting ill in the cart while this happened, because I have no recollection of this.
It's probably
Why?
best you don't.
Yes, I agree. It is probably best I don't, but now we are apparently wanted.
It's just a technicality.
Well, when we return, when we're with Samus Holbein, and we prove that he was the one, and we have his pardon, then I think we should be okay.
So we could also trade our
Wait,
freedom
wait.
for a couple of elf ears. That's fairly
Wait.
good currency.
Not the ones that you cut, because they look terrible. I gotta show you how to do that.
Yes, that's probably a good idea.
There are so many times I wish I could just turn a blind eye to everything that is happening in this company. Where to begin? Okay, now you mentioned Samus being able to pardon us. Does he actually have that power here?
We can find out.
Why would you assume that he does?
Why would you assume that he doesn't?
Because most people don't have that capacity. I would know. I had worked as an inquisitor.
Well, clearly he's a beardless dwarf who seems to be a noble of this area and this land, who has some sway. I'm sure he could at least pull some strings. That's how nobles do things. They pull strings, right? I would know.
Yeah. Why don't you just pardon us, T-Hole?
You are pardoned.
There you go. We're good to
You
go
are
now.
pardoned.
Oh,
However, that only works if we're in Alcator.
Yes, and I don't know that anybody here in Watchtower would actually recognize the pardon of T-Hole.
And King, yeah.
Well, have we tried?
I believe we have the first time we were here.
That was before I was able to at least reclaim emperorship of Alcator. But I wouldn't put my luck quite yet. I have a long way to go before the kingdom, or before my empire is back under heel. So in the meantime, we may just want to talk to Samus Holbein and see how he could help us out.
Well, it's only going to be a couple days, if I recall. He's still out of it.
I shall see if I might be able to contact the families and the individuals that Helwyr you injured. Perhaps we can provide some kind of monetary compensation for their pain and suffering.
well, that Osiris god showed up and healed them a couple of bits. Ugh. Who cares?
So they were healed?
Oh, they're fine.
Yeah, they'll live.
Okay, but that still does not change the situation, which is that we are wanted fugitives now. It's going to impact our ability to move through the city freely.
Well, it's just
How am I the only one concerned about this?
because if they really wanted us, they'd come down here and get us. It's not a mystery we're here.
Yes, but I suspect that our current benefactor, name, the guy with the long name.
Duke.
Yeah.
The Duke Fancy Pants.
Yes, I have a suspicion that the Duke is currently using his resources to help us.
Also, they may think I'm a spy for the giants which attacked. That could be a possibility also.
I wouldn't go that far, Helwyr.
All these stupid
No,
people.
I'm not sure. Helwyr does raise a good point. People seem to be quick to associate his kind with the giants.
Well, you are pretty big.
If that was a concern, though, they wouldn't have let you into the city walls.
Well, they were very hesitant, but have you ever angered a giant? You try not to do that.
They were also confused because T-Hole was referring to him as a hobgoblin and then vouch for him.
I think Zarius' name is on the line as well. If we do anything wrong.
However, there's nothing that says that we need to leave. This has all the comforts of home. Tea, pork. What more can you ask for?
Listen, before we go out to seek out Don Patron and Road Shadow, let me see if I might be able to use some goodwill as a former inquisitor of the church to try and, I don't know, smooth things out, perhaps.
Well, Inquisitor and goodwill don't seem to go hand in hand. I'd be real curious about what you're about to do.
Yes, I prefer a beheading than a hanging. That would be great.
Anyways, Lucerosi, it should be easy. You just simply say we were under duress. We had a bleeding Samus Holbein. I was nearly gouged out. We were being denied help, and we needed to get him to a healer as soon as possible. They denied us, turned us away, and people weren't moving, so we just did what we had to do.
And Emperor T-Hole has given us diplomatic immunity. So kiss it.
Yes.
I understand the situation. I understand what happened. I'm just trying to make sure that the authorities also share the picture and the urgency with which we were acting.
Just let them know that Emperor T-Hole says it's okay.
I'll go with you to make sure that things don't get out of hand.
Kajika, are you sure that's a wise idea? You're not to sound uncouth, but the people of this city do not seem to take kindly to those of your particular build.
Well, I have been trying to work out a little bit, put some bulk on, but I guess.
Perhaps.
That's a nice way of saying racist.
Perhaps just wear your robes and try to conceal yourself as best as possible.
Also, if they confiscate your weapons, you're most likely going to need my head and my other weapons. And I lift my fists.
Helwyr, I think you certainly need to be nowhere near this conversation. We want to make sure that we have calm heads when talking to the authorities, not somebody that might spark an incident to which they're unlikely to look the other way.
Yeah, you and T-Hole can look up this Don Petrolio or whatever his name is.
He's probably hanging out in the tavern with Jose Cuervo.
Yes, actually, that's not a bad idea. Why not the two of you speak with the Duke? Perhaps he knows some of these individuals, and he may actually have some ability to summon them here to reduce interactions with the city guard.
That's a good idea. We shall do that. And then maybe we can head to the tavern for more information.
Just try to keep a low profile until me and Kajika return and are able to make sure that this mess has been sorted out.
We'll try. My middle name is low profile.
Okay. Sure.
T-Hole, roll an insight check. You're not sure he was being honest.
Kurt, with my Inquisitor background, would I have any knowledge of where to find an individual to try and discuss this matter and try and resolve it without it getting out of hand?
I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, assuming it is related to running people over, and you do seem to recall when you were laying sick in the back of the cart. At one point, you were at a heavy angle because he dragged the cart up the steps to where the guy was listening to various petitioners who wanted to. And then he dragged it. It was when he was dragging it back down the steps into the crowd that he ran over people. So, what was a body, what was just bouncing off a step? It was a little hard for you to tell at that moment. But assuming it was that, it might depend a little bit on who got run over. Because if the person was important, you're probably going to have to go talk to somebody at the palace. If it was, just a regular townsfolk, member of the townsfolk, then probably the Marquis's palace wouldn't really take care of that at all.
So then it's probably a matter of first going to the people at the gates and asking them, inquiring about who was injured there.
Right. That would be a fair place to start.
Okay. All right. Kajika, you ready?
Ready as ever.
All right. So we'll head there. I'm gonna keep my hood up as well. Not only because I stick out like a sore thumb, but I don't want people looking at the weird lion-headed dude walking the streets.
So you make your way over to the guard tower. What is T-Hole doing?
T-Hole is still in his underwear. And he is eating pork sausage and drinking tea.
Well, as you go down, you would find there's also eggs and milk and toast and other things. But as you go down, you come in and you see the Duke, who is flanked by someone who looks to be a fairly young half-orc soldier, but she's just standing in attention behind him. He's there with his advisor, Lady Aristra, and his daughter's there as well. They all stop and just look up as you walk in your underwear. And Contadina drops her spoon into a bowl of what might be oatmeal or porridge. As they stare at you, come over, and as you sit down.
Good morning, Duke. What a lovely morning.
Can we have a check to see how soiled his underwear is?
The half-orc female steps forward and clamps her hands around the little girl's eyes.
Oh, I don't think that's necessary. I'm not that hideous. I mean, age hasn't been kind, but it hasn't been that bad.
And the Duke responds saying, "No, you are correct. We are unaccustomed to people coming to breakfast in this state of undress, but certainly for your age, you look amazing."
I thank you. You have a way with words, and it tickles this old man's heart.
But alas, my daughter has a music lesson that Sergeant Jax will take her to now. And still with her hand clamped around the little girl's eyes, she just basically lifts her up by a shoulder and carries her out.
Good luck. What does she play?
She is learning several instruments. This morning, however, her lute tutor should be coming.
Ooh, fun. I would, if she is interested in giving us a mini concert later, perhaps after breakfast or after lunch, I would be more than interested to hear her progress.
It may depend. Yesterday when you met her, she was in her more gregarious moods. She is frequently very shy, and so if she is in her more personable mode, then I certainly will ask her to play for you.
Ah, glad to hear it. How did you sleep?
Quite well. There was some shouting from down here, but and I unfortunately had the bedroom directly above, so that caused me to stir a bit. But after a moment or two of that, you quieted down very nicely. My sleep was undisturbed from then on.
I apologize. Sometimes we have some disagreements, and
There is no need to apologize. I was a soldier once myself, and I know that when you're in the heat of dangerous professions, sometimes the fun gets a little loud.
yes. Well, we'll do a better job tonight. We'll hopefully argue less. So I was wondering, do you by chance know anybody named Don Patron?
Dom Patron. I suspect you mean Dom Patronio, the dwarven
Yes.
clan leader.
Yes.
I know him quite well. He's there are several, not many, but a handful of nobles in the world who have very widespread holdings. The empire used to cover the whole continent, and so several of us are from families that had lands from many parts of the continent. He is one of those nobles. He has lands in the Empire still, as do I. He has lands here in Longspear, lands up in the north, in central Eredane. He used to have lands in Morelios, however, those were overtaken during the war with the Diluvians. So, yes, I am familiar with him. I would not say he is a close friend, but certainly I would know him to see him.
Now, did I kind of out of character a little bit? Was it Don Petronio? Was that the spy name?
Whose
What
name?
was the spy name that we were supposed to meet?
There was a courier named
The courier.
Road Shadow, a halfling.
Road Shadow. Okay.
Dom Petronio was who she suggested you go meet while she tries to get you permission to go open the manor.
Okay. All right. Do you know where Don Petronio is at?
I assume I have myself been summoned to Montvert to meet with the king. I do not know what the business is, but if he is not in Montvert right now, he would also have been summoned. So he will be shortly.
How far is Montvert from here? Do I know?
You would know. It's at the other end of Longspear. It's the capital of Longspear, where the king has several palaces there. But it's about 600 miles.
Okay. All right. What is Longspear? Like
Longspear,
on the grand map.
Yeah, Longspear is. I might as well switch you over so you can see it. But Longspear is the kingdom in which Watchtower sits. But it was carved out of what used to be the Empire. This is Longspear.
Okay.
So Watchtower is way over here. Montvert is way over here.
Gotcha.
But yeah, but when the Empire broke up, Eredane broke away probably about a little more than 200 years ago. The churches set up Holy See here in St. Belry, and in doing that, they were assisted by several kingdoms around them, including Longspear. So the churches essentially gave what amounts to a papal blessing to the original king, Longspear.
Gotcha.
So
It seems.
how are you getting to Montvert?
I
Are you
will.
traveling?
Yes, I will travel by carriage. As I mentioned before, I may not be here when Seamus Holbein awakes, simply because I must attend this gathering, and so I can delay no more than 2 more days. So, if all goes well, I will leave tomorrow. But if Holbein has not yet woken, I will leave the day after tomorrow, just to tend to his needs as much as possible. If I have to leave, I do believe, after talking to Zarius, I believe he is skilled enough as a healer that I can explain what needs to be done to keep the wound free from infection, and he should be able to tend to his needs as well as I could.
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, if Zarius can't tend to wounds, then we're in grave trouble on the battlefield.
Well, normally his skills would vastly outpace mine. This is a special case in that apparently magical healing will not work to help stem the tide, as it were. So he will have to rely on non-magical means to keep the wound free from infection.
Ah, yes, of course. That knife.
Right.
Um,
What do you intend to do with the knife? And you see, when he says that, Contadina also seems to perk up and be interested. She was less interested in the talk of Dom Petronio.
well, we haven't quite decided. However, it is an interesting thing. A knife that can nullify magic. It seems like a useful thing that you wouldn't want to leave lying around.
Well, it is especially interesting because it is connected to the cult of Vecna, at least according to my advisor. It could be, if you run into others who are aware that that is where these knives came from, could be considered contraband. The churches could, well, in the extreme, the churches could deem possession of such a thing to be a sign of heresy.
Well, fortunately, there's only one religious person amongst us, and he is not here.
I am pretty sure Zarius is religious.
He doesn't seem to take issue with the cult of Vecna. at least that he's expressed it to me.
I do not know very much about the religion of Osiris. My understanding is that he would be very much opposed to the cult of Vecna. For Osiris is a god of death, and so Vecna is obviously a cult related to undeath. I could be completely mistaken. You would probably know better than I would.
Yes, well, whenever he arrives from Mallet Space, we shall ask him his exact feelings about this knife. But I would like to hang on to it, at least, and keep it well hidden, just in the event that it could come into use later.
So if we have no use for it, most likely Loki will.
It is obviously yours to do with as you wish. I was merely curious and a little concerned that someone could misinterpret your having possession of it. They might think that you are a Vecnite.
What would you recommend?
To be honest, I have not given it that much thought, but turning it over to the church would seem to be a safe option.
That might invite more questions.
It might, but you could very easily say, I mean, especially if I am still here, that you found it when you found the wounded Themis Holbein. The wounds on him alone, the fact that they cannot be cured easily by magic, seems proof enough that someone used it to injure him. When he awakens, I have no doubt he will be able to describe his attacker.
That's true.
But if you prefer to keep it, I have no strong feelings about the matter. I do not know that the knife itself is innately evil.
Yeah. Well, we wouldn't put it to evil use anyway. Not unless it told us to.
He laughs at that.
Let's see, what was the woman's name? The historian?
Contadina Aristra.
Contadina, you seem to have perked. Does this knife interest you?
Yes, it does. All magic interests me to some extent, but something I am unaware of a cult of Vecna in this area for several centuries. So where it would have come from is interesting, as it suggests that the cult may be active again.
Well, Vecna's. Well, let me take a step back. What do I know about Vecna?
I mean, you would know. Give me a religion check. I mean, the common knowledge is certainly that it's rumored that he was the first Lich. It's not 100% clear that that is true, but that he was a very powerful Lich who had been around for a very long time before the Empire, back in periods when the history of the continent is somewhat murky and lost. And that his cult has been there. There are two cults that seem to come up a lot. One is called the cult of Baal Haman, who was some sort of devil or demon, and then the other is Vecna's cult, because every time they seem to eradicate it, it seems to come back. Now, maybe these are different cults. There are a lot of theories as to how it comes back, but no one has been able to completely stamp out this cult worshiping Vecna.
Do I know where Vecna comes from? Like, is it like Vecna being of like this realm or like a different plane?
Vecna is believed to have been a human wizard once upon a time, who just became a lich and just kept accumulating power, so that until he became the most powerful lich. You know, there were rumors that he tried to become like a devil, a duke of hell, and then rumors that he tried to become accumulate the powers of a god. To what extent those are true or folk tales is hard to say.
Gotcha. Well, we found this insane Miss Holbein, who was at the behest of a crazed mind flayer. So we know the mind flayers came from the Underdark. So this dagger may have traveled a long way, and may have passed through the Underdark at some point to get into their hands. Who's to say?
Exactly. I'm curious about its origins myself, and may, unless it offends you in some way, I may ask a few questions about it discreetly, of course. But I'm not wondering if maybe someone who went on Holbein's little adventure didn't have it on them. I don't necessarily see. It's certainly possible it could have come from the Underdark, but I've never heard of a cult of Vecna amongst the Mind Flayers.
Well, there's quite a few people who did end up going crazy and betraying each other. So could be that Gruzza.
I don't know Gruzza. If I were to speculate, the most interesting thing to me would be if one of the nobles was a member of the cult of Vecna and went along on the adventure, but got captured by this mind flayer you defeated. And so all of his possessions were in the care of the mind flayer, who simply used the dagger to attack Holbein. But it's equally possible that he brought it with him from the Underdark, and there's simply a presence of Vecna in the Underdark that I'm unaware of.
Have you ever traveled to the Underdark?
I have, in fact, once been to the Underdark.
Ooh.
It was a fairly brief excursion, but and mostly accidental. But we were there for upwards of a week.
What brought you to the Underdark?
Mostly, we were traveling to Oshaldir, the Dwarven underground stronghold, and in one of the passages there was a spontaneously formed gateway to the Underdark. Unfortunately, in stepping through it, we found it was one way, and we had to continue to search for quite a while before we were able to find what we needed to get back.
Oh, wow. That sounds scary. I'm glad I wasn't caught in that pickle.
Well, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't been caught in it either, because many of my companions died as a result.
Did you run into any mind flayers down there?
Not mind flayers, that was not so much the problem. We kept being attacked by various creatures that were barely visible. Monsters of shadow and smoke.
Did they resemble? It was like a frog. Was that thing that we had? That was in the. It was like a frog thing.
Banderhob. Yeah.
A bander. Were they by chance banderhobs?
I don't. Oh, let me see. I don't know what a banderhob is.
It's a creature of shadow and smoke.
Well, then that sounds exactly like what it was.
Now, where would we find the dregs of society in this place? We're looking for a courtier. What is it called? Like a messenger.
Courier.
Courier. Yeah.
Well, you could. I don't know why you would expect to find a courier with the dregs of society. Everything here is relatively new, so I wouldn't say anything looks like a slum. There is a poorer district on the outskirts between the walls. The courier, some couriers might be very well paid, however. Depends on who sent him.
Have you heard of...
Before we go into that, though, we'll switch over to Mike and Kajika going to the walls and the guard tower.
Oh, yeah.
So you make it to the guard tower, the nearest one to where the Tower of the White Quills was.
All right. What do we see when we get there?
There are several guards outside. Nobody appears to be directly on guard at this tower, at least not inside. Up above you on the walls, you can see there do appear to be lookouts. But at the base, it appears to be more or less just men milling about outside. There is a fairly large awning that stretches out from the base of the tower, from the main door that leads in. And they appear to just sort of be gathered around the entrance outside.
Okay. So Lucirosi will try to approach one of them and will greet them, trying to keep his hood, concealing his face. Hail there.
And he looks up and sees your armor and insignia and snaps up. Hello. Can I help you, sir?
Yes, I have a question that I was hoping that you might be able to answer. My understanding is that there were some people that were recently injured in some kind of cart accident. I was wondering if you might have some information as to what may have happened or who may have been hurt.
You don't mean that thing at the palace, do you?
What was it that happened at the palace?
Well, apparently some really tall, gray-skinned old man just dragged a cart halfway up the steps to where one of the palace courtiers was dealing with the throngs of petitioners. Then, having been rebuffed and told to go on his way, pushed the cart back down the steps into the crowd that had sort of swelled in behind it. Apparently oblivious to the fact that anybody was there, so 2 or 3 people got run over by the cart.
By Asheros, what a barbarian.
Yeah, well, I wasn't there to see it, but I assume, well, first of all, he must have been mightily strong if he was dragging a cart upstairs, but I assume, at that age, it all starts leaving you.
Yes, I hope that's all that it was. Do you happen
But
to
it-
know was anybody?
It turns out even better. This guy is wanted because apparently he may have murdered elves to slice their ears off. So now,
Oh,
we're supposed to be on the lookout for this gray-skinned old man who apparently is strong as a bull and figure out if he's a murderer.
that
I mean,
seems.
if you can find him, that would save us a lot of trouble.
And how vigorously is he currently being sought?
I mean, it's not, where it's not a manhunt. We don't have people on the streets looking for him. We know he's in town somewhere because of this. Nobody reported seeing him leave through one of the gates, so we assume he's still inside. We'll eventually get him. He'll try to leave at some point, and we'll nab him then.
Yes, of course. Well, I appreciate you letting me know about this. But I'm also curious. Was anybody significantly injured in that cart accident?
As far as I know, not really. I mean, they were pretty banged up, but apparently sometimes reports get a little out of hand, so I can't verify all the details. But someone said that lizard folk came up and immediately healed them. So were they injured? Sure. I mean, and that's assault. So I assume he'll be brought up on those charges too. But nothing as serious as maiming people by cutting off their ears. Although we don't actually have any reports of any elves having their ears cut off. Tensions with the elves are so high that we just can't let that go. We have to be seen to be punishing him for that.
I see. Is there any evidence that he has cut off these ears, or that he has in fact killed any elves?
Not that I'm aware of. All I've been told is the first thing we do when we subdue him is to secure all of his pouches and, backpacks, things like that, because apparently he carries around a pile of them with him. So I'm pretty sure the hope is he'll just bring us the evidence when he brings us himself.
Sounds like a monster.
He does sound like a monster. I hear he's one of the corrupted, so he literally is probably just a monster.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time. Here is a gold piece for your troubles.
No, sir. I am officially a town guard. I am one of the king's men. I can't accept money for doing my job. If you need more information, as I certainly can only tell you what I've heard, I would go and probably talk to the Marquess's Chamberlain.
Marquess's Chamberlain. And where might I find this individual?
Presumably he would be up in the palace. Wouldn't say I know the comings and goings all that well.
Well, thank you, and also thank you for being so upstanding in not accepting the money. I meant it in good faith, but I do appreciate the value that you place in your duties.
Not a problem. It's an honor to talk to a paladin of Asheros, sir.
Thank you. The pleasure was mine as well. All right. Well, by Asheros' light, may he bless your days and your journeys ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Does the milling about with the guards and stuff, does it look like they're kind of lax on their duties, or this is just kind of like normal, procedure?
I mean, you would guess that these guys aren't officially on duty at the moment because they're not even wearing armor.
Okay.
So this is probably doubles as a barracks, and they are just, this is their downtime.
Okay.
So as I walk away from the guy, I look to Kajika and say, Helwyr has done it again. His despicable nature has finally caught up with him. They don't even really care so much about the incident with the cart. It's the fact that he was brandishing and talking about his elf ears that has gotten him in trouble.
Well, did he get him in combat, or he just get him off some dead bodies?
I would truly like to say that he just took them from dead bodies. That would be bad enough, but I'm sure that he took some of them from living elves and others that he killed in cold blood. This is a problem, Kajika. Helwyr doesn't do well with not standing out.
Well, we'll have to deal with that when we get back. Where are we headed to now?
Well, there was the guard had suggested getting more details from the Marquis Chamberlain at the palace. They may have more information about the specifics with the cart incident and what the law enforcement is doing in regards to Helwyr, but it seems that, at least for now, they're just hoping to spot him as he makes his way out, as they suspect that he will attempt to do at some point, which is accurate since we cannot remain here in Watchtower if we hope to continue on the quest that Loki has put forth.
Well, we can get him out. I guess we should go talk to this whoever. Find out what the real deal is, since this sounded like secondhand knowledge.
Yes, the guard was quite helpful, but it seemed that much of what he knew was, as you said, secondhand. All right.
Probably shouldn't hang around here too long anyway.
No, probably not a good idea. The armor that I wear provides some good faith from the town's guards, but who knows how long that will last if they know that myself is associated with this cretin that they see wielding and demonstrating elf ears that he's collected.
I'm not talking so much about our traveling companion. I'm talking about the potential for giants attacking this outpost and running right through here and cutting everybody down. Those fellas there were just hanging out without their armor like it's a leisurely day out here in the woods. They'll be the first to get cut.
Well, it seems that the Watchtower has a pretty good handle about those giant attacks.
Yeah, that's the famous last words.
Well, let us hope that their guard and watch are trained well enough to respond to danger in good time. Anyways, shall we continue on to this Marquis Chamberlain?
Sure.
All right.
So you travel to the north of the city, to the topmost part of it, back to the palace of the Marquess, and then
Marcus.
yeah, once again there is. It's pretty early and it's still raining. It's still cold, so there's not quite the throng you saw the first time you got here. But you do see there's probably 5 or 6 people And then under an awning, you see once again there's a nobleman standing there, kind of ignoring them as they try to shout over one another and looking especially bored. Behind him in the shadows, you can see there are 2 guards on either side of him over either of his shoulders.
Okay. So is there a good way to approach so that we're not appearing to be threats or?
He's essentially standing on what amounts to a raised platform. There's a ring of stairs around him. Everyone else seem to not be treading on the stairs, and they're sufficiently far enough away from him and interested in getting his attention that there must be a reason why they're not stepping on the stairs. It's probably not permitted, but you can very easily sort of get up as close to him as they are.
Okay.
Although maybe not directly in his line of sight because they seem to be moving around to try to stay in his line of sight.
Okay. So they're all actively trying to get his attention.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll look to Kajika and I'll ask. So, how do you think we should get that man's attention? Seems to be pretty actively ignoring everybody about.
Yeah, I pull out my pistol and fire it in the air.
Immediately, the 2 guards on the steps lower pikes and begin running towards you, taking up flanking positions on either side of you. Drop the weapon.
Definitely, he's like. It's much like what Aliwell. the similar level of shock.
-1 pistol ammo. Well, we got their attention, didn't you're on? You're up now.
You don't like
the
to make
nobleman.
things easy for
The
me,
nobleman
do you,
is being. More guards have come out, and the nobleman who was on the stairs is now being pulled inside as more guards come out and take up positions around the doorway.
So Lusharosi just holds up his hands and attempts to calm the guards. Easy. We meant no harm. Kajika, that was not intentional, right?
Well, it was intentional to get their attention. If I meant to shoot them, I would. I just put the pistol back under my cloak.
You can't see it because his hood is up, but you kind of notice some movement underneath Lusharosi's hood as his ears just go down in that kind of emotion of just like pure.
One of the 2 pikemen says to Kajika, "Drop the weapon on the ground!"
And it's not going to hurt you. I got it concealed. If I meant to shoot you, I would.
Lay on the ground, interlace your hands behind your head.
Kajika, I think that we should listen to them. Do they seem to be doing this to me as well, standing next to him?
No, they're more focused on him.
Okay. So I say to Kajika, just follow their directions. I'll try to calm it. Okay. Whether or not you do it is another story, but that's what Lusharosi is asking. And then Lusharosi will try and address one of the guards. Excuse me, sir. This is my companion. He meant no harm in what he was trying to accomplish. Or, well, he meant no harm in the explosion that you heard.
Can I make an insight check on the guy who has the pike that's making this? Like, can I tell if he's a veteran or he's just...
Can make an insight check.
Okay. So, let's see if I can remember how the hell to do this. Is it? Oh, this is character's got a decent insight. Oh yes, he does.
He is, you would guess just from watching him move and how he handles the pike, that both of these two are very good with these weapons and probably are literally veterans who maybe not served in wars, as there haven't been any hot wars in this kingdom, but have definitely seen a lot of combat for
Okay.
their, for soft races.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I am not going to give up my pistol. I will lay on my back. I mean, on the front, out like this, and see if I can just keep an eye on whomever approaches.
So, and Lucia Rosa, give me a persuasion check.
Okay. Don't believe I'm very good at these. Persuasion. I'm not terrible. Nice!
So with the nat 20, the guard is immediately like, you're traveling with this hobgoblin? Is he a prisoner?
No, but he has proven to be quite useful in my endeavors of late. And so he is my companion.
Very well. You have to understand, there are laws against firing weapons like this so close to the Marquis's palace, even drawing weapons this close to the Marquis's palace, unless you're authorized to do so. But if he's your companion, I guess we can overlook this.
Yes,
It was an accident anyway. He looks at the other guy with the pike. It was an accident, so
yes,
no need to penalize him for an accident.
yes, we greatly appreciate your consideration in this matter. It certainly was an accident and will not happen again. He looks at Kajika as he says that.
The other guy reaches down and helps Kajika up, or at least offers to.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, friend.
But
not a problem, sir.
But we do actually have some business with the Marquess. We understand that there was an incident yesterday involving a large gray-skinned individual, and we were just hoping to get some information.
Oh yeah, the murderer. I don't know. I mean, the Chamberlain is the one who originally put out the bounty on him and demanded that he be arrested, but apparently he may have slipped out of town before word could get around that he was being sought.
I see.
I mean, I can't necessarily just let you into the court. You're going to have to talk to at least whatever administrator they send out to hear the petitioners for the day. But I mean, in light of your position, I imagine he would let you in. Now, whether or not you'll be able to meet the right people, I don't know what their schedules are.
And that is completely fair. I understand. If you could lead me to whoever I might speak with to gain access to these individuals, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. Follow us. And they go back up, and there's they walk up the steps, but he like holds out a hand to try to get you to not step on the stairs. And then he goes up and whispers a few words to the courtier who's there. And the courtier looks over at you and says, yes, approach.
Hi.
I understand you would like to see the Chamberlain about the gray-skinned fugitive.
Yes. We are just looking for information in regards to the specifics around the crimes that this person is accused of, as well as any specific details that might be helpful in terms of identifying who this person is.
Well, I'm afraid I don't have those details, but your friend is a little dirty, he says, looking at Kajika, who is just laying on the ground. But if you would like to step into the foyer, I will send someone to see if the Chamberlain can meet with you. He might send you away. I can't make promises, but...
All I
And then
can
he
ask
turns-
is for you to
He
try.
turns and motions to the guards as you say that. And the door opens up and one of the guards steps aside. You can go in. Please don't venture beyond the foyer, though. There are guards there. They wouldn't let you anyway, but...
we
Yeah,
shall
that'd be
abide by
dead in a
the
minute.
rules. Sorry, what
So
were
you
you
go
saying?
in, and you'd been in this building before, so you'd seen the foyer previously. You were actually led into a waiting room before, but you were standing in the foyer, dripping from the rain outside. And eventually you see into the room comes the same beardless dwarf you met the first time you were here, Eckhart Reshield.
I briefly remember there being an interesting conversation or interaction with him.
Yeah, he's T-Hole didn't like him because he's one of the beardless dwarves.
Yeah.
But he
Can't
comes
trust her
in
as
and
far as he can throw 'em.
Paladin, we meet again. Well,
Indeed.
of all the people who would be here to ask me about the giant kin corrupted murderer, I didn't think it would be you, but I suppose that makes sense since you were traveling with him.
Yes, it is certainly an unfortunate circumstance that his crimes have come to light. I am trying my best to make sure that this individual is brought to justice.
He perks up at that and genuinely looks surprised.
This
Oh.
surprises you. I am a paladin of Asheros and a former inquisitor.
Yes, and perhaps I underestimated you. I rather expected you would try to find some way to get me to have the charges dropped.
I mean, there is no excuse for the mauling of dead elves, the mutilation of their bodies. There's no way that
far as-
Asheros would allow me to permit such a act.
Well, as far as I can recall from the conversation I had with him, it was not clear that when he tore the ears off their heads that they were dead. And he was offering them like they were some sort of currency. And he
Yes.
seemed to have enough that he thought he could buy my favor with elf ears.
Yes, I do recall this incident, and it was quite disturbing.
That is bribery. That is, or at least attempted bribery. That is attempted trafficking in humanoid body parts. And at the very least, assault and maiming, if not murder.
Yes, and it was my belief that as his traveling companion, I might be able to assuage him from these proclivities and help him see the light of Asheros's guidance, but it has been quite a chore, even for one such as myself. So what is it that the palace is seeking in terms of justice being served?
Well, that wouldn't necessarily be directly up to me. There would be a judge appointed to hear the case. Frankly, we're rather hoping he still has the pouch of ears on him, as other than my word, which is worth something, but is not conclusive. We don't have direct evidence of him severing the ears of elves. I hope they were severed and not simply torn off like some animal, chewing them off with his teeth.
That is my hope as well.
I would imagine it's not as if we have a prison to hold him in nearby, so I would imagine probably some sort of maiming punishment or death.
I see.
My guess would be, given that we don't have any first-hand accounts of anyone being murdered or having their ears torn off within the city, the most he would get is loss of a hand.
That is quite a punishment, though, fitting of somebody that has, at worst, or at best, desecrated the dead.
Where can we find him? I'll dispatch men right now.
Oh, this is interesting because Lushirosi doesn't want to lie, and he's not going to lie. I'm curious.
Get your spell slots, T-Hole.
I'm curious what Kajika is doing at this moment.
Yeah, you'd see he definitely took like a long look at you as he came in and walked across the room. But he didn't seem that disturbed by the fact that you're a hobgoblin.
How to handle this? So, Lushirosi, he looks at Eckert thoughtfully and says, I am sure you would be ready to dispatch forces. However, my fear is that if you were to do so, you would not go easily and thus may cause a great deal of injury to those that might try to capture him, or worse. And so,
yes, I have heard he is monstrously strong. You're right. We should lure him. You should help us and lure him into some sort of ambush.
now, his name is Leaf Shield.
Reese Shield.
Reese.
R-E-E-S.
And what is his title again?
He's been called Chamberlain. He has a longer title, but he's the Chamberlain.
So then you will say, now Chamberlain Reese Shield, you know that my faith would not allow me to ambush a man, even one of the corrupted. But what I can say is that I would be happy to arrange for Helwyr to serve the justice that he needs to serve. And I would prefer that we do not send forces to retrieve him because it would be bloody. Give me some time to address this matter, if you would.
I mean, I can negotiate an arrangement with you now, if you prefer, a sort of a plea bargain. If you would sever his hand, preferably in front of the palace, so we can be sure that it's his hand. Not that we would doubt your word, but trust but verify. Then I think we could call the matter settled. Death would be off the table. The loss of more limbs off the table. I think that's a pretty fair offer.
I will see to it that I attempt to negotiate the fulfillment of this plea to reduce the likelihood of needless death, but also to make sure that justice is served.
Very well. I would like some update as to your progress, like within a day or so. Otherwise, I mean, we will have to be looking on the lookout for you as well. No offense, just the realities of the situation.
No, it is understood. But I will do my best to keep you updated on the matter as best that I can. I don't know that a day would be sufficient time, but I understand that the crimes that have been described are quite severe.
Yes, I'm just saying within a day, send me word of where things stand with you and him. Not necessarily that you have gotten his agreement to the bargain.
Yes. Well, that will be an interesting matter, but please let me worry about that. Well, Chamberlain Reeshield, I do appreciate your time in discussing this matter. And I also appreciate your amenability to allowing me to address it.
Well, you are paladin of Asheros after all, invested by the Holy See. If we can't trust you to mete out justice, who can we trust?
Indeed. Well,
I have duties to attend to, so if you will excuse me. And he turns to leave and then says, "Oh, yes, you and your friends had a courier that came for you.
oh,
Have you managed to find him? Yes, a Mr. Fastolf Boffin."
no. We were aware of a courier, though we have not been able to meet with him. Might you know where we can find him?
I do not. However, I will have my assistant track him down. Unless he's here in the court, which I don't believe he is, we may not be able to get you a direct location, but my assistant should be able to find him. Where are you staying? I can either send him to you or send you word of where he is.
We are currently staying at the White Quill.
Yeah, the White Quills.
Yeah, the White Quills. So if you could have him meet us there, that would be appreciated.
Can I do an insight check?
Sure.
I don't trust this guy. Come on, insight.
As near as you can tell, he just doesn't know where this courier is.
Well, more that we just told him where he is and that he's going to come and get Helwyr before the fact that we bring him to him.
Near as you can tell, he is just trying to make a connection between you and this courier.
Okay.
Although you also get the impression that this guy is a bit of a politician. So who knows? He may not have like the standard +0 to his deception.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time, Chamberlain. We shall let you get back to your duties.
So he walks out.
All right.
And the guards from around the various doorways all sort of press in to give you less and less space as you back up towards the door.
So once we get a sufficient distance from the palace, I asked Kajika, so you seemed intently listening and observing. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't particularly trust this Chamberlain, and now that he knows where we're at, I think he's going to come for Helwyr beforehand.
It is possible. That thought had not crossed my mind. I have a bit of a trusting nature, I suppose, but he recognized the. Oh, go ahead.
Lucia Rosa, give me an insight check.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, you didn't think about it at the time, but I mean, he could send people down.
Yeah. But he seemed to be acting in good faith in recognizing my oath as a paladin of Asheros. I don't think he would distrust my word, though being a politician, perhaps he would seek to make a name for himself. But as I said before, you know Helwyr, and you know that he would not go quietly. I don't know that he would want the blood of those guards upon his head, should any of them fall in battle with Helwyr trying to get him. At least I would hope not.
Well, we just need to get out of the city before they come looking for him. And get those elf ears, if he's still got them, off of him, at least while we're in the city.
Yes, but I was also quite serious. He does need to serve penance for his crimes.
Well, I wasn't there for these crimes, so...
No, but you have seen the ears that he carries upon him.
Yeah, I've seen that they were poorly cut with a dull knife.
Yes.
If
well,
they were
I've
ears
also-
taken in battle, that's an honor. If they were taken from just some random dead body, then that's desecration.
Oh, believe me, he has taken them from those that he passed that were already dead. Additionally, I have seen him kill in cold blood those that have already fallen and take their ears. And now, because of his decisions to act in such a manner, it has put our entire party in danger, as well as the quest that Loki has entrusted us, which I don't know about you, but that also endangers the rewards that Loki has promised us.
Well, it sounds like we need to get T-Hole together and have an intervention.
Indeed.
The elf ears did save your lives once. So there's that.
Wait, when did they do that? I don't remember that.
Did you find him in the alligator?
No. It was before that. He originally had a full pouch of elf ears, but you were being attacked by specters, by elven specters, and he dumped out the whole pouch. And the elven specters were so like freaked out and enraged about all these elf ears that you had an opportunity to run and get away.
Yeah, it was on the island.
Yeah, I remember
Yes,
that.
I'm remembering that now.
I think T-Hole went down as well during that fight.
I did. I was down for the count.
So switching back, you guys are still at breakfast with the Duke and Contadina.
Well, it seems that we may be requiring to go ourselves to Monbear fairly soon to meet this. Seems we have some business with Don Patron, where perhaps we need to get into contact with him.
Well, if you wish to travel with my group, wait for the siren.
Oh, sorry.
I'm about to say
Yeah,
it's somebody from Chicago.
Yeah.
If you wish to travel with my group, that would be acceptable to me. However, I do not know if Seamus Holbein will be in a position to travel so soon.
Yeah,
I would not want to take him before he was at least conscious, and I would want to evaluate his condition even then to see if it was safe to move him by cart or by carriage. He will need bed rest, presumably, for at least several days.
Oh, I agree. It's something I think that I think it's something we may need to do, but we can, I think I need to confer with.
Actually, I should go and check on him again this morning just to make sure everything has gone okay through the night. I looked in on him very briefly, but I did not check all the dressings. So I am done with my breakfast. If you will excuse me, obviously, if you need anything, Mavis is at your disposal.
Of
And he
course.
and Aristra get up and walk out of the room.
Well, we may be able to leave with him, which would be nice. If there is any kind of legal trouble, we may be able to, never mind. Because Mavis is still in the room.
No, Mavis comes in and out, so she is not in the room at the moment.
Oh, I would say something like, there may be a way to get out if, we need to.
Very well.
So what do you guys want to do? You have probably at least 2 hours before these two can make it back.
Well, T-Hole probably should go get his clothes on. So he's gonna go back to his room and throw his garments back on, and come back downstairs.
As you begin to walk out and walk upstairs, you see there are many more people in here now. Some of them seem to be painting a few of the side rooms. Several of them are just bringing in crates and rolls of tapestries and carpets. So they appear to be just common workmen.
Good morning. And I just kind of wave to them as I'm walking by.
They seem to be giving you a pretty wide berth, probably because you're an old man in your underwear. But they wave back and then laugh amongst themselves. They go about their business.
It's good to see so many happy people around. So then I'll once I put my clothes on, if I walk around upstairs, I guess I'd be interested to just kind of poke around and walk through and see some of the rooms. You say there's people putting stuff up, like tapestries and such. Are there any that might kind of jump out at me?
The tapestries don't appear to be especially valuable. I mean, some money was spent to acquire them, but tapestries tend to be very large and heavy. So, these aren't necessarily like royal palace quality. They're just sort of nice quality to, dampen the sound in the room, keep the room a little bit warmer than it might otherwise be. So, no, they seem to more or less just be decorative.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you do notice some of the rooms on the upstairs and probably some of the rooms on the downstairs as well are laid out to be sort of classrooms. And some of the rooms that have tapestries in the classrooms do tend to have a theme. Like you see several of them have the letters of the alphabet on them. Several of them have letters of the Dwarven alphabet on them. So I guess as a sort of reference for the people who are in there trying to learn how to read.
This place is all right. I go downstairs back to Helwyr. It's like, they're putting classrooms up in here. Maybe we can learn a thing or two.
I doubt it.
Maybe you could teach a class on fighting.
I can teach them how to skin an animal. That would be quite a class. Maybe we could hang some in this building. And I look around the walls, looking at all the paintings and stuff.
That'd be useful. It'd probably keep the room pretty warm, comparable to a tapestry. And the kids can make it themselves.
Yep. Helwyr just nods approvingly.
I suppose we could. I guess I would want to take a walk outside. To just kind of see the area about. See kind of what shops are near.
Okay, so you go outside. It is pretty cold. I mean, it is the start of winter at this point, and it's raining, so the combination makes it more or less miserable outside. The sky is very overcast and gray, not that much wind, but there's not, as a result of the weather, there's not that many people milling about on the streets. You can see all around. I mean, the big thing dominating this part of the town is the cathedral to the four gods, which is right nearby, essentially just down the street a bit. But you can also see there's candle makers, shoemakers, shoe repairers, leather workers. The tea shop that you visited is in this area as well. When you first came into town.
See, I wonder if there's any items that is there kind of like I guess I don't have anything like in general to check for or get. I do have a winter blanket, so I can at least wrap that about my person to stay warm.
Yeah, I mean, anything you were looking for. This is more of a mercantile area than the northern part of the city where the palace is. So anything you wanted to buy, this would probably be the general area to do it. And pretty much anything in the PHB that you wanted to buy, you could find in this area.
I'd be interested to see if there is somebody that I could figure out to find, like I could maybe show this blade of Vecna to see if I can get more information about it. Is there like a crooked alley or something that
dodgy apothecary or something? Yeah.
If you wanted to do an investigation check, there is always going to be a risk that you show it to the wrong person who identifies you as a Vecnite. but if you wanted to do an investigation check, there's certainly no like sages are us, like right on the corner. Okay, so you spend a couple of hours asking around. Nobody that you've spoken to in that time seems to be of any use to you whatsoever. They recognize, you're kind of sort of obliquely asking about people who would know about weapons and old weapons and magic weapons. And these people are all just kind of common folk, so they don't really truck in those sorts of things.
Gotcha. So I would head back to the White Quill.
And that probably took you enough time. What are the other two doing? Are you just going back down?
Do we let's see. Who was the guy we had to talk to see the?
Oh, the courier.
No, not the courier, but the Chamberlain. Who was the guy we had to talk to see the Chamberlain?
I didn't give him a name.
Oh, okay.
He was a courier, but okay, his name was, let's see, what was his name?
No, the guy that came out and we had to talk to, who was really a smart ass.
Eckert Reshield? You mean?
Yeah, that's the Chamberlain is Eckert Reshield.
Right, but we had to talk to somebody to get to Eckert.
Oh yeah, the
Right.
guy upstairs.
And that courier on the courtier on the stairs his name was Kai Rule.
Okay. Okay, yeah, he was the smart ass. So yeah, as I go by, I go, yeah, appreciate it, and kind of shake my cloak to make sure there's some mud that gets on him. Appreciate that, fella.
Hold on, I'm gonna roll a saving throw for him. This is his dex save. Ah, he gets mud on him. So you hear he says, "What the?" as you walk past him, splashing mud on him. This is my good cloak.
Are the cannons on the walls obvious, like where they're set up?
You cannot see them from where you are now.
Okay.
But from the overall design of the city, you would be aware that they'd be sort of, because there's a wall. If you Let me get back to the picture of Watchtower itself. So the cannon would be sort of on this outer wall,
Okay.
whereas you would sort of be closest to this inner wall. And then there are cannon also on these little islands. So from where you are, no, it's not very
Okay.
obvious where the cannon are.
But I know that they have them.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't seen a town that's laid out quite like this,
Right.
but you know from Hobgoblin architecture that while a little bit more involved than Hobgoblin architecture in general, Hobgoblins often build fortifications like this to set up crossfire zones between cannons.
Yeah.
And they did say they killed a bunch of giants with cannons. The dead
Yeah.
giant you saw had wounds that were consistent with cannon fire.
Okay. All right. Guess we just head back.
Okay, so you go back down. T-Hole is just coming back from his excursion as you arrive. What was Helwyr doing during this time?
I probably would have been like donning, maybe sharpening weapons, all that kind of stuff, just maintaining.
Okay, so everybody but Helwyr, give me a perception check.
Crap. Do I have the perception?
Nice.
There we go.
So T-Hole and Lucharosi, you don't notice anything, but Kajika, you do notice that there is one person who seems to more or less be doing nothing, but is staring like a laser beam at the Tower of the White Quills. He is sort of suspiciously nonchalant about hanging out in the cold rain, staring at a door, and clearly takes interest when you three show up.
Okay. Well, we're being watched, and just in
Appears to be
case
a
you want.
Dwarf. He appears to be a dwarf, by the way.
You see that dwarf over there, standing in the rain, trying to look nonchalant? He's watching us.
Aren't we all standing in the rain trying to look nonchalant?
Not like he is.
Is my back to him, or do I have to like?
You could see him without being too overt.
Okay. Does he have a beard?
He does not have a beard.
Ugh.
And he's dressed in pretty nice clothes, like better than the average person you see on the street here. He also has the horse that he probably rode down here on is very nice.
It's one of those untrustworthy dwarves. Those rat bastards.
So, thinking about that, if is he like across the road or something?
Yeah.
I just turn around, and start walking to him.
You see, he tries to nonchalantly look away, like he's not paying attention to you until you get within a few feet of him. When he looks over, can I help you?
Well, I would ask you, can we help you? Seem to take a great interest in the building over here.
Well, the White Quills are quite the charitable institution. It's interesting that they are establishing a new outpost here in such a relatively small town for them.
And what's that to you?
Nothing to me especially, although I greatly admire their goals.
So Lucirosi is kind of backing up Kajika and just kind of listening.
So what goals are those?
As I understand it, they seek to bring literacy back to the population at large. They provide some degree of non-magical medical care, and he all but rolls his eyes at that.
Yes.
What more do they do? Why are these not worthy goals in and of themselves?
They're fine with me. I mean, you don't have to stand out here. You could just go inside and talk to them if you want.
My understanding is they're not exactly open yet, and I am waiting for a friend. I would hate for my friend to arrive and not see me.
Fair
Perhaps
enough.
we know your friend. Maybe we're waiting for the same person.
Oh, are you waiting for someone? Who are you waiting for?
It is impolite to answer a question with a question.
I already said your question was, am I waiting for someone? Maybe you're waiting for the same person. But I doubt you're waiting for Doldor Taurus.
Forgive us, we're a little on edge. We've had quite a few days, and so when we see a stranger just kind of staring into the place that we happen to be heading, it puts us a little bit on our nerves.
Well, I would say that's understandable, but this is a town, so people are everywhere staring all the time. If that makes you nervous, maybe go live in the country.
Sure, people stare, but usually not out in the rain without any kind of
there can't
covering to
be
protect
more
them.
than True, but there can't be more than 100 hobgoblins in this entire town. It's a little unusual. It's worthy of a look-see.
A look-see of what?
A look from a dwarf who's minding his own business.
Well, you want a better look, and I step right in his personal space.
He's shorter than you, but because you're so short, not that much shorter than you. So he steps like right into you so that you are now officially like touching chests. He tries to like tiptoe a little bit so you can like just rub nipples.
T-Hole sees nipples about to merge and he just goes inside.
And Lucirosi tries to intervene and say, no, we do not need to get much more into this than we need to. Kajika, let's just be on our way.
So as I'm that close to him, Do I have any? Can I do any insight of like what his is? Does he seem like? Does he seem like a spellcaster? Does he seem like a fighter? Does he seem like just a nobleman? He's just dressed nice.
You can definitely make an insight check, but also roll for initiative with me.
Okay.
He got a 14.
Yeah, I got a 14
got a 14.
insight. So okay.
What's your dexterity modifier? It's super high. So
No. I didn't roll initiative yet. Sorry.
okay.
You wanted to say what the fuck?
Right.
13.
Okay. That's fine. So he beat you. So he is going in for a sarcastic kiss on your lips. What's your armor class? Because he got a 19.
Yeah. That hits.
So you are like nose to nose, and he just goes. "Mwah." And you get the sense that he is probably more of a warrior. There are dwarven clerics. There aren't that many dwarven wizards. It's not considered to be a respectable profession, let alone amongst the dwarves. So they're pretty rare. But he gives you this little kiss, and you get the sense from the power behind his lips that he's probably more a fighter type.
The power behind his lips. Lushrossi is just in shock. He's just like,
I don't know. I just take a step back.
like I feel like at this moment, Lushrossi is the anime character spewing blood from his nose, just wondering what the hell's going on.
Well, that's all I got, and I turn and walk away.
He continues to stand there in the rain, his horse and he both getting drenched, just staring at the door at this point, once you go inside.
Kachiko, what in Astros' name was that?
I don't know, but let's not talk about it. And I just go inside. Are there windows to this tower?
There are pretty big windows. It's not much of a military structure. It's more of a decorative structure.
Okay, I just pull up a chair or bench and sit behind the window and watch him.
Longingly.
You'd have to roll insight.
Okay, so you're watching him. What are the other people doing?
So while
go ahead.
I was gonna say while Kajika was and Lushrossi were being forcefully accosted, Teal went inside and he went to go kind of warn Helwyr that there was somebody strange just kind of staring at the door. And they might be after you.
Good. I just sharpened my weapons.
You've prepared. They were dwarves, so unfortunately you will have to wait to collect more ears.
Damn dwarves.
But we may want to find another exit other than the front door.
So at that point, Lushrossi walks into the room with T-Hole and Helwyr, and he says, "We have quite the situation on our hands." And
Yes,
then
what do we want
Lushrossi, is there a table in the room?
There is in the entranceway. You can
Oh,
find a room with
yeah.
a table, but in the entranceway there's a table. It's just there's like chairs around the sides. The table seems to just be here to hold a plant rather than to be sort of a functional table. It will serve.
I thought I walked in with T-Hole and Helwyr, and Helwyr was
Okay,
like sitting doing stuff.
I thought they were still out in the sort of main entranceway, but you're in a side room where there are tables.
All right, so Lushrosi sits down and he says, Helwyr, you're being charged with maiming elves. The Marquis, or the Marquess's Chamberlain, still remembers you dumping your bag of elf ears in front of him. And as a result of that, you were wanted for possible murder, if not maiming, as well as attempting to bribe a government official.
Guess
They
that's
are-
trafficking in elven organs. My mistake.
Yeah.
Well, they are quite good currency.
No, they are not. Not in these lands.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Your propensity for maiming those that you've killed, and also your slaughter of those that are no longer able to battle you, has now not only endangered yourself, but also the entire mission and us as your companions.
It seems I'm only wanted here in Watchtower. Right.
You need to serve out justice. It's not
Yep.
acceptable. It's not acceptable for you to carry around elf ears, let alone harvest them.
Maybe you could give them back to them and say that you've given up your elf ear ways.
Yes, of course they would want all the coin which the Elfiers would give to them.
No, they're
Yes.
not interested in that. Apparently, there is some kind of political situation that makes this more sensitive than it normally would be, even, which it already, at least in my eyes, is appalling that you are engaged in this behavior. But that this is making it require the palace to find public punishment for what you've done.
Well, did you arrange a hanging or a beheading?
Neither. They just want one of your hands.
This does
Well,
pose an issue, even if outside a watchtower. Say we were able to escape. I'm sure since nobles stick their greasy paws in every which way they can find, I'm sure news would spread. And even if we could escape here, we might find trouble in some other city.
Yes,
Perhaps.
you're making quite a name for yourself, Helwyr.
Perhaps this Don Patron and Jose Cuervo.
They will not take my hand willingly.
No, and that's why they're not here right now. They know that. They don't want further bloodshed if it can be avoided. But they are all watching the gates, looking for you. It's not easy to hide you given your size. And also, I'm inclined to agree that you need to serve some kind of penance for the crimes that you've committed. In addition to the penance for endangering all of us and risking, I know that all of you are much more materialistic in your endeavors, And so this also risks the rewards that Loki has promised for completing the quest, because this has gotten in the way of us being able to go about this business freely.
Without 2 hands, I cannot draw a bow. I would be no use anymore.
I recognize this, which is why we must discuss some other means that would be acceptable for them, but allow you to continue on and serve your use to this party.
Technically, without a head, you also could not draw a bow.
Bless you.
Well, I don't think there'll be much reasoning with them.
Do they still do gladiator combat deaths here? How many do I have to kill before I can get out of here?
Helwyr, this is not a matter where more bloodshed is going to help your cause. At least not the bloodshed of others. It's too bad that Zarius is occupied with Samus's care. Otherwise, we might be able to consult him to see if there might be a way of reattaching your hand so that we could at least allow for the public display of its removal.
I mean, you would sort of know that would actually be quite a feat. That probably would require something on the order of a regeneration spell, as opposed to just cure wounds.
Yeah. Well, I know that, but Rossi is hopeful for miracles.
Cure wounds in an action point.
So, Helwyr, you've gotten us into this mess. What do you suggest to get us out?
At this point, after all this talk of losing hands and crimes, the workmen in this room have completely backed out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is Dwarf still out there?
He is still out there. I mean, it hasn't been super long. It's been like 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I would say you're in the same room that they are.
Oh, okay.
Staring out the window at them.
If I lose my hand, I would be forced into retirement. Otherwise, I will fight my way out. Which seems like the more likely of the two.
See, I am not interested in you losing your hand or more bloodshed, but we are in a conundrum because they are expecting something, and I do believe that you need to serve some kind of penance for the crimes that you've committed. I mean, it is egregious, not just in the eyes of Asheros and any other good deities that others may believe in and put their faith, but also the laws of this land. Helwyr, perhaps where you are from, this is acceptable behavior, but this is going to continue this pursuit is going to get you killed and cause us great danger as well.
So I do agree that we need to do something. It does not bode well to be fugitives and have a bounty on our head as we try to travel from city to city. How am I going to reclaim my empire if I'm considered a fugitive emperor? That won't be no good. So perhaps we could figure out some way. I don't believe they'll listen to much, but we might be able to do them a favor, since we are so able to do combat We
We
may
could
be
take
able,
care of their giant problem.
we could do that.
It's possible, but it seems, at least from my impressions from Eckhart Reshield, that this situation is political with the elves, and the fact that it is by now well known that there is some kind of giant within Watchtower harvesting the ears of elves, possibly killing them for it. They can't allow that.
Well, every dwarf has a price, even a beardless one.
Yes.
Yes,
If it is-
if we
if
were
it is
dealing
killing-
with an individual, perhaps, but it seems to be beyond Eckhart Reshield's ability to ignore, even if we could potentially procure some service as penance.
If it is killing elves he requires, my skills are quite great.
That'll smooth over relations with the elves.
What's Watchtower's? Do we know what their primary race here is? Is it just super mixed?
It's pretty mixed. It's about 30% humans, 30% dwarves, and they're the
Okay.
most numerous.
Okay.
So, Helwyr, what do you suggest?
And you, at this point, you hear footsteps coming towards the room, clicking off the marble floors. And you see the Duke comes in. He doesn't look super pleased. And he says, "Am I to understand that you are fugitives?"
Well, it seems I am.
Yes, and it doesn't matter. We are trying to deal within legal means. We're not seeking to avoid justice. At least that's not my intent.
Well, I have received word that apparently the building is being watched by several people from the Marquess's court.
Yes, there appears to be one outside the front.
That would make sense.
And he's a terrible kisser too.
What?
The-
The good news is there is no possibility that the Chamberlain or the Marquess would send men into this tower, at least not so long as I am here. So, you are currently under my protection. But once I leave, I doubt they would be as good about staying outside.
You're right.
What specifically are your crimes, as I was not informed of that?
I'm very good at dealing with elves.
That
Too
is
good.
no crime. Do you mean you
What
kill
he means-
elves?
Yes.
What he means by that is not only murdering elves, but harvesting their ears and keeping them with them, as well as
Yes.
attempting to bribe the Marquess's Chamberlain with said ears to gain entry to Watchtower.
From my parts, Duke, elf ears are quite a good currency with the local hobgoblins.
Why?
We trade them for slaves and such.
Is this true,
Elf-
Kajika?
Elf ears? Why would they trade elf ears? Don't they just rot?
Yes, but it is proof of their death. And the wood elves are very good at hunting hobgoblins.
I mean, at least in the theocracy, which is just a few miles from here, they are, so far as I know, at peace with the elves. They have, in fact, elves are the only race that they will not routinely enslave because they have been at war with the elves of the Dark Forest in the south. Strange currency, elf ears. I'm surprised you are not a criminal there, too.
Well, he very well may be. it seems Helwyr has a difficulty ignoring his baser impulses.
Well, thankfully, there are no elves here, so I do not think you pose such a threat that I should force you to leave. But I am afraid you are going to have to come up with a ruse if you wish to leave this building and not be captured, or at least attacked.
Well, the Marquess's Chamberlain, Eckhart Rieschild, has given me about a day to try and handle this situation. He is aware that if they were to come and try to take Helwyr by force, of course, they seem that they would not do so while you are here. But once you leave, they recognize the danger that he poses. And so, in order to avoid bloodshed, he has given me time to address the matter.
Possibly. He is not a terrible person. However, when push comes to shove, I do not know that he will not risk the lives of guardsmen to take a prisoner that he clearly seems to have some personal bias against.
Oh, yes. This is definitely personal for the Marquess's Chamberlain.
How well do you know the Marquess's Chamberlain? Do you know him at all? Would he be open to negotiations? Or you see his proposed sentence of Helwyr losing a hand will just not do, as we still have a mission to complete. One that would require 2 hands to wield his sword, not 1.
He is at heart a politician, so I assume he would be willing to negotiate something. Although there are not many. This is merely a small town on the outskirts of the kingdom, so there are not many punishments that they can mete out. A hand is not so bad. You might be able to argue him down to a branding, say on the forehead.
I turned to Helwyr. A branding doesn't sound bad.
The problem will be that the elves are very bellicose at this time. So there is a fear that if the kingdom appears to be light on crimes against the elves, that we will draw the attention of the same elves that attacked the theocracy and force them to negotiate a peace.
What is the situation between the elves that attack the theocracy, and are they not at peace?
They are at peace for the moment. However, the stories vary as to how they forced the hobgoblins to negotiate their peace treaty with them, but we do not have such a treaty. We exist aware of the fact that either the hobgoblins or the elves, or worst case, the hobgoblins and the elves could cross our borders in force. Therefore, the deaths of any elves, the mistreatment of any elves, is always a concern. It is the primary reason, if I am being honest, that slavery was outlawed in this kingdom, was that only elves could be slaves, and it was simply politically untenable to continue to have elven slaves so close to the critarchy of the elves.
Leave it to Helwyr not only to engage in vices despicable in nature, but ones that bring danger to us and unleash a political powder keg.
Well, to be fair, I do not know that one lone individual, and especially, and forgive me, he says, looking at Helwyr, but a corrupted being would be the spark that ignites a war.
No, but the situation is sensitive enough that we can't really argue for punishment lesser than branding or the removal of a hand.
Again, with respect to you, Helwyr, I have to say I agree that these crimes are not without their seriousness, and some punishment seems just to me. However, if Helwyr were to escape, I do not know that it would spark a war. It would simply be another affront to the dignity of the elves that we would no doubt have to smooth over.
Yes, if we, it would be something that I think would follow us from wherever we go. I'm sure that that word would spread to other towns.
I do not think that would be the case necessarily. These crimes, I mean, possibly murdering elves is a crime worthy of punishment in the eyes of the gods. I have no doubt of this. But do I think the Marquess would be sending word of this set of murders to other towns? I am less sure of that. And even if he did, the average guardsman, I would say, wouldn't know what Helwyr looks like now. They know him as the gray giant old man.
Yes, but we will surely need to return to Watchtower for business.
That is definitely a problem. However, even there, when? Because how long do you think the guards at the gate will remember that they are supposed to be looking for the gray old man? Probably several months. Some of them, maybe with longer memories, might remember for a year.
But
I'm not suggesting that he should not be punished, however.
Yeah. Yes, because regardless if the guards remember or Watchtower remembers, I will remember. And it is important that as an instrument of Asheros in his word, I cannot simply ignore the crimes that Helwyr has committed. So once again, Helwyr, I ask you, how do you propose to make this situation right?
These aren't crimes.
Whether you recognize them to be crimes or not, they are indeed crimes of this land.
They are just to me.
Even so, once again, you fail to recognize that this situation endangers our ability to complete the quest that Loki has sent us upon. Even if you refuse to recognize the laws of this land, surely you cannot ignore that.
Would the Duke know of anyone who could possibly reattach my hand or give me another?
There is magic that could reattach your hand. It is fairly powerful magic, though. I do not even know if the high priest at the cathedral here in this town could perform such magic. Certainly the high priest in the temples in Montver could.
I am sure it would cost an arm and a leg to get a hand back.
I mean, if I were to throw my weight behind branding as a punishment, I believe it would be accepted, particularly if it avoids further bloodshed. He might, however, be exiled as well. If they're only going to brand him, then they won't want to brand him and allow him to remain in the town.
So then Helwyr would be unwelcome, and if we had business to attend to here, we would have to leave him beyond the city walls.
Yes, certainly.
Or smuggle him in and risk further punishment.
I mean, to be honest, if they cut his hand off, probably they would also impose exile.
There's no point to this city anyway. This isn't my home.
This is where the door of Mordekainen is, though. And that is
Actually, one of the things Lokekzikas said is that they moved the door somehow. So it's in Manor now.
okay. I wasn't. So why would we need to come back to Watchtower?
I'm sure that there will be matters that we'll need to handle here at some point. I mean, Lokeksa is probably going to have other jobs for us once we complete the quest with the door, which could potentially take us back here.
Oh, we could work through proxies. Emperors never do the works themselves. They always delegate others to do it. If we have to have matters that involve Watchtower, we can just delegate others to do our work inside the city. At least while we remain as a full group.
Mavis comes walking in, and behind her there's what at first appears to be a child, but you realize there's rain dripping off his hat. The rest of his clothes appear to be dry, but he seems to be a halfling. And she whispers something to the Duke. And he says, apparently you have a visitor. And the halfling comes in.
Hi, guys. I'm Road Shadow.
Hi, Road Shadow.
Yes, we've been expecting you.
Yes.
I'm glad that you got the message to meet us here.
Yep. Was unfortunately forced to live in their stables for a while. But it's all good. So anyway, I've got a packet full of mostly crap here to give you. Who wants it?
What crap?
Papers. Lots and lots of papers.
Lusharosi will offer to take them.
And he takes out, I mean, it's not bound, so it's not like it's a book, but it is probably book length stack of papers, all handwritten, and hands them over to you. At the front, it says Lokekzikas' research at the top of the front page.
Okay. This must be what she was discussing in terms of the door to Mordenkainen's Manor. Maybe some of those different warring factions that she discussed with the demons and the demon lords. If I flip through it, do I get a sense that that's accurate?
At the front, it seems to talk about demons and demon lords. In fact, they realize that the whole front page is the headline on it is "Warning," and it's in all caps. But a lot of it appears to be a biography of the last owner of the manor. It appears as though it covers many, many topics.
Okay.
I just emailed you the thrust of it. I emailed it to everybody.
Cool. So it seems that this will be valuable if we intend to enter the manor.
Yes, of course. I'm wondering if Vecna's within these pages somewhere.
I do recall in the dream that is a name that Lokekzikas had mentioned.
Oh yeah, it talks about Vecna all the time.
So,
Oh, I read it, by the way. So I was bored and I was stuck in the stables. It's not like it was under wax seal or anything, so...
No, it seems that Lokekzikas did not really mind others seeing what was within. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have went to greater lengths to keep it from your purview.
Well, I work with her a lot, so if she doesn't trust me by now, she should probably stop paying me.
Well, thank you, Road Shadow. Was there other business that you needed with us?
Nope, I was told to figure out where you guys were, which I failed miserably at. Where were you guys anyway? Best I could tell, you came to town and then immediately left and didn't go anywhere near the manor. And then the rumor is that they moved the manor anyway. But I told all this to Lokekzikas, so I'm sure she'll get in touch with you and let you know. Anyway, it's like 2 months to get back to Cartha, so I'm gonna head off after I get a night's rest.
Toodaloo.
I'm pretty sure she said something about coin as well.
I believe that is perhaps with Don Petroni.
Petronian.
Yeah.
All she said about coin to me was how much she was going to pay me when I got back.
Yes. Well, Duke. Duke. At Calabria.
Yeah, De
Right.
Calabria. Yep.
Duke Calabria. Our good messenger here. Would you allow him to stay here rather than try to find a night's rest somewhere else?
Well, of course. If he's been staying in the stables, then since he has brought you this information, I have no problem assigning a spare room to him. Mavis, if you could show him to a room and see to it that he is well fed.
Oh, sweet.
So he follows Mavis out.
Was there any money with that?
No, it appears just the pages. So, Kajika, you've been listening to this conversation in regards to how to deal with Helwyr. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if we bring him to this, whatever his name is, he's just going to kill him. I don't think we're going to get the benefit of taking his hand or branding him because I don't trust him.
That's true. He doesn't have a beard. You know what they say about doors without beards.
Duke Calabria, you mentioned that you have some sway here in the city. Would that actually be a possibility?
If he made a deal with a paladin of Asheros or with me, I cannot imagine he would break that. He might, but there are consequences for not keeping your word. And when you break an agreement with people who are sanctioned by the church, as we are, then the sanction is all the worse.
So, Kajika, we certainly have no reason to trust Eckhart, but he did give me his word. So, I think that Helwyr's life is safe, but we still need to determine how we're going to address the situation.
Well, what's his punishment going to be?
Helwyr, would you be willing to be branded?
Maybe a kiss on the lips. If the, if the guy his other the other dwarves are anything to be based off of.
Wouldn't you think a branding would be just as a much sign of criminal activity as losing a hand would be?
At least with a branding, you would be able to maintain your usefulness with the party. Additionally, it is easier to hide a brand than it is to go about without the use of a hand.
A brand may be one of the only options, other than killing them all.
Well, let's be realistic, Helwyr. Even if that were an option, that would not be something you could achieve on your own. Nor is it realistic.
I mean, if there were extenuating circumstances, if you would kill these elves in self-defense, you could always raise these points at trial. Obviously,
Yes.
it is not...
I
It is
am not that good of a liar.
Or do we have time to sit for a trial? We have matters that we need to begin to go underway and complete.
Another option is, though I hesitate to suggest it, just as the men of the Chamberlain would not come into this tower while I am in here, they also would not attack my carriage if you were to accompany us to Montvert. They would have no choice but to let you go if you came with us, if you traveled under my protection.
You would do that? For what payment?
I do not necessarily require payment, although I am not certain if I would do that. I would need to hear more about why it is important that you escape what seems to be justice.
Yes, I agree. I am of the mindset that Helwyr needs to atone for what he has done.
I mean, at the other end, I suppose you could always roll you up like you are some sort of carpet and then have the workmen carry you out.
So, Duke, who is your god of choice?
I am a paladin of Asheros.
Not so useless of a god now. Oh, that's perfect.
So you would say that Asheros probably serves justice no matter what, right?
Of course. He is the god of civilization and justice.
Well, it's up to... Well, Helwyr's going to get his justice no matter what. Whether he atones for whatever he does is up to him.
That is true. He will eventually meet his justice. However, Asheros works through his servants in the community. The god of civilization demands that civilization's justice be meted out, I should say. You disagree. I mean, it is all fine and well to say that when we die, we all go before the gods and have our souls weighed. But that does not mean we should simply not pass any laws, nor see them enforced.
Well, I'm not saying you should enforce the laws. Asheros will get his justice whether he atones or not. But we don't even know about his crimes.
Well, it seems as if he is saying he killed elves not in self-defense.
Well, he says a lot of things. He talked to Alligator, too.
Yes, I seem to have one of these damn tattoos, and I show him my Lusharosi tattoo on my hand.
I still have questions about that, by the way, Helwyr, which we will address at some point.
Maybe I should cut this hand off. But in any case,
I think a branding is the very least that you can do to atone for the crimes that you've committed.
well,
You may be able to find leniency also if you went to trial and pleaded that you saved the elves from Alcator. And you did recover the Vecna dagger. You could turn that over as proof that you have defeated a major evil in the north.
I mean, is Samus Holbein returned and
yeah, I would need witnesses.
saved? Not any sort of. Would that not be any sort of proof or help in this matter? I mean, I think bringing an esteemed noble back safely, and then
It seems like a paladin wants to condemn me. So I doubt I would be in much help there. Well,
Yes, Duke.
Helwyr, I
please.
am not looking to condemn you, but I also will not lie. I have seen you commit these crimes.
I mean, saving Samus Holbein, again, it would be another factor in arguing for leniency. It would be easier to make such an argument, though, at trial rather than in the abstract, just dealing with the Chamberlain alone. Although, again, you may well raise it. It may well help sway him to accept a mere branding as the punishment for this crime. I doubt you will be able to argue him down to a fine.
Well,
But also, we really have time to sit for trial?
yes. Could you explain the trial process here? You know, in the theocracy, we usually do it by fire.
The trial process here would be a judge would be appointed by the Chamberlain. The judge would sit and hear evidence from an officer of the Marquess's court. You would then be given an opportunity to present your own evidence, including witnesses. And then the judge would make a determination of fact as to what actually occurred, whether a crime occurred, and the magnitude of the crime. The judge would then come up with an appropriate sentence depending on what he found.
So he could just hang him, as far as we know.
He definitely could, or traditionally, beheading is a more common punishment than hanging.
Well,
Or burn him at the stake, though that is usually for religious crimes.
well. If you're going to cleanse them, then burning makes sense. But that's the gamble you get if you go with the trial. It could turn out worse.
Well, if he found guilt, it certainly would turn out worse than branding. The judge might, I expect, consider losing a single hand. More likely, though, you would lose both hands or both feet.
Well, Luceroshi, you should probably head back up. My suggestion, you head back up and talk to what's his name there and tell him that if he'd accept a branding for the things he's done.
I will do so if that is what Helwyr would agree to.
And Mavis comes in and whispers something to the Duke, who says, "Excuse me, I will return," and he leaves. And Contadina, who is standing in the doorway listening to some of this, says, Why don't you just sneak him out of Watchtower? Seems easier. Not like they're searching every cart that leaves the town. Throw a tarp over him. We got tarps everywhere around there.
She makes sense, Lucirosi.
Yes, unfortunately, my sensibilities as a paladin of Ashros prevent me from allowing him to escape without paying for the crimes he's committed.
Okay. She turns to T-Hole. Why don't you just sneak him out of here? That's what you do is throw a tarp over him.
I think it's a great idea. And I mean, Helwyr has already received my pardon.
Yes.
So,
Well,
there's that. However, Lucirosi can be stubborn when it comes to these things.
And although Lucirosi thinks that a branding will stop me from cutting off elf ears, it most likely will still happen.
well, that's why a branding is probably not the traditional punishment for being a murderer, because it doesn't do much to stop you from murdering again. The main point of the branding would be it's a little hard to get rid of, and you really wouldn't be easily admitted into this town again. Or frankly, probably many other towns would shun someone branded with a big M for murder on his forehead.
Or Mario. It's me, Helwyr.
You, yeah, you think that M on Mario's hat stands for Mario. He only became a plumber after he got out of prison.
I mean, he had to pick up a new skill somehow.
So that's a fair place to end it. It's a little after 1 my time.
Oh, okay, well. Well, thanks, guys.